Welcome back to New Day. Boy, the election has seen a shift. Right now, Democrats and Republicans are going after Donald Trump. Donald having no trouble hitting back. Let's bring in Hugh Hewitt, the host of the Hugh Hewitt Show, talk radio show host, also frequent guest as a moderator for CNN debates. Hugh, 1 point already for that tie, strong out of the gate. Merry Christmas in advance to you as well. Let's play the Hillary sound that has all tongues wagging this morning.
We also need to make sure that the really discriminatory messages that Trump is sending around the world don't fall on receptive ears. He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
Now, two takes are possible on this. One is what David Brock just offered on the show, that intel experts have informed the campaign, including Clinton, that they are using what Donald Trump has said and done to recruit online right now. The other one is we can't find a video, so this is untrue. Your take.
Chris, there's only one take. Hillary Clinton lied. She lied again. She invented a second video narrative which has nothing to do with the truth. She's been fact-checked on this claim by the Washington Post and by the New York Times. John Podesta was on Meet the Press yesterday. I was on the set with him. He tried to dance around it. David Brock tried to dance around it. Hillary Clinton compulsively lied in a situation where it was not necessary. And it raises that fundamental question. 60% of Americans don't trust her to begin with. She's the least trusted person in the field. And I remember the late Christopher Hitchens wrote a book, No One Left to Lie to It, which he marveled at the fact that both Hillary and Bill Clinton seemed not to be able to control themselves. This was a completely unforced, unnecessary launch into falsehood. There is no video. No video exists. Donald Trump called this morning, NBC, he called Meet the Press yesterday. He wants an apology, but I think more importantly, voters have to figure out that if Mrs. Clinton becomes President Clinton, they'll never be able to believe anything she says because she just makes stuff up like this video, which does not exist.
What happens if she runs against Donald Trump, captain thousands and thousands of people celebrating after 9/11? Is he someone that cry foul about somebody stretching the truth?
Yes, he is, absolutely. When you make up a video out of whole cloth, and remember, this is Hillary Clinton who invented a video narrative about the tragedy of Benghazi. In about 3 weeks, we're going to see a movie, 13 Hours, come out about that tragedy, and people are going to be reminded again about her paralysis and her obfuscation about that night. It's going to be a very bad 6 weeks for a bad candidate. But even worse, Chris, in that debate, she also said, we now finally have ISIS where we want them. And she put her arms around her Libyan policy. Well, Libya has become a volcano of refugees and terrorists. It's the backup headquarters for ISIS to Raqqa. Her disastrous policy with Russia, her flip-flops on Egypt, her disaster in Libya. I expected a boring setup debate on Saturday night. It was one of the handful of people in the country who watched it. You probably had to watch it too. And it was agony to watch it. It was so boring, but nevertheless, to make error after error, unforced error, I think tells us, and people will be talking at Christmas dinner, that Mrs. Clinton is simply past the sell-by date. We can't take 8 more years of lies. We can't take 4 more years of lies.
What happens if an intel guy comes out and says, we do know that they're sending lots of Trump propaganda. We intercept tweets all the time. We know that they're messages. We know some of them are video clips. They're out there.
Utterly oblivious. It doesn't matter. She lied about a video. She was very specific. It would have been easier for her to say, it would have been very easy to say, I worry that Donald Trump will become a tool in the propaganda machine because I worry that Hillary Clinton is becoming a tool in the propaganda machine. Those are legitimate worries. I would send the entire audience to a book by Joby Warwick, Pulitzer Prize winner, Washington Post reporter. It's called Black Flags. I read it on the plane back to California from Washington yesterday, and ISIS is very, very sophisticated. They are cruel, they are absolutely fanatical, and they are very sophisticated. So I don't put them past using anything that is said in American media. This exchange, anything that is said in their propaganda. But we ought not to make up their propaganda for them, and certainly the leading Democrat, the presumptive Democratic nominee, ought not to be lying about what they're doing. That shows that she does not have the capacity to stay briefed, to stay focused, to be prepared. Chris, I say it again, I hate to say this because it's blunt. She is a liar. That video does not exist, and she owes Donald Trump an apology.
Well, that will be some development if it happens. My money's against it. So we saw a big moment in the debate where you were up there asking questions. Donald Trump says to Jeb Bush, "Who's talking, Jeb, me or you?" And Jeb looks at him, as he hasn't done before, and says, I'm talking. And I keep likening it to a scene out of a Rocky movie where Rocky's getting beaten up the whole round, and at the end of it, he looks at the guy and says, "That's all you got?" Since then, Jeb Bush has been going after Donald Trump like never before. Do you believe this is the new way for Jeb Bush, and does this make him somehow a hero figure within the GOP?
Well, I do think it shows signs of life. He got off the floor. Jeb Bush started punching hard. Interesting you use a Rocky movie, Chris. I've been using the analogy of the new movie Creed, where the young Apollo Creed's son fights the Englishman. Well, that's Rubio and Cruz going at each other, blow for blow. Over in the corner is Sly Stallone, Rocky Balboa. He's winning by not being in the ring. That's Chris Christie. I think he's the big winner out of this aftermath. But here are the numbers I've heard. Ted Cruz's numbers have stayed exactly the same in Iowa and New Hampshire, about 30%. His favorable, unfavorable, about the same. Marco Rubio ticked down a little bit. Jeb Bush ticked up a little bit. Donald Trump is falling behind in Iowa. And if he's going to win Iowa, and I think he needs to win Iowa, I would look for him to go after Ted Cruz hard in the next 2 weeks, because it seems to me Donald Trump can't afford really to lose. That's not something Donald Trump does. He's a winner. And so Ted Cruz has got a commanding lead, and he's building on it. He's got great momentum. Marco Rubio's in third place at this point, but I got my eye on Chris Christie because he had a terrific debate, as you know, and you nailed down after I asked Donald Trump whether he would stay in the Republican primary, and I applauded it. I was very happy to hear that he would. And I believe that when you asked him if he would stay in and he doubled down, that set the race up for the next 5 weeks. It's going to be a heck of a show.
Hugh Hewitt, thank you very much for the perspective, as always. And if I don't see you, have a very good Christmas.
Happy New Year, Chris.